Another good week. Was proud of our energy level. Our focus throughout the week was really good. Uh, Guys are excited to play, excited to start conference, excited to play, another top 25 opponent, and so um, it's been a good week. Obviously, it's not over. The physical stuff is over certainly, but we've got whatever 45 hours still left to prepare mentally. Questions?
Injury updates?
I give you a list.
Yeah,
Brendan Eagles,
will not play.
Keontae.
Keontae looked good today. We're going to see how sore it is tonight. The chances are good, but I don't want to say 100%.
Shackelford.
Not looking good, but we're still holding out hope that maybe, with the right tape and brace and all that, if a dam bursts somewhere, that he could at least go in and get in front of somebody. But as of now, not counting on it.
Overshawn.
No, still probably going to start practicing next week.
Delhi.
Delhi's good to go.
Good to go. John Burr.
John is kind of like Keontae. We're gonna see how he feels tonight, and then kind of make a decision tomorrow.
Last one would be Patrick Hudson.
No, Patrick goes and sees the doctor again on Monday for a return to activity plan.
Does Shaq have any? He didn't have any procedure done, did
He did not. No,
Okay.
it was a sprain,
Okay.
but pretty. Anytime you get on the foot with big guys, I think,
Right.
it's hard. They're constantly putting force into the ground, pushing on people.
Right.
So it's a little bit more difficult for big guys to come back from that.
You've made no qualms about what the goals are for this team, and it's always been competing for a Big 12 title come November and December, regardless of what happened these first three games, non-conference games. How do you change your mindset, your focus, your message at all with the team when you start Big 12 play?
Not really, no. And to be quite honest with you, we don't really ever talk about that either. I get asked, what a reasonable goal is for this team, and it's to be in contention in the months of November and December. But these guys have done a really good job of having a singularness of purpose and focus that. We know that obviously we're not blind to the fact that this is the first conference game, but it's the next one on our schedule too, and the goal each week is to go 1-0.
What about the fact that it's an in-state rival and trying to win the state championship, quote unquote? The fact that it's another Texas team that you're playing, is that any added rivalry or anything?
No, I think where that comes in is our players know their players. I think that's one of the things that they've either played against them in high school, played with them in high school, went to different camps and combines with them. So they get excited when you're playing somebody that you know. So that's certainly not lost on me or our staff. But it's important that we do well against our in-state rivals in conference, because we recruit against them as well, so we want to make sure that we play well against them.
Did you watch last year's game in preparation for this week, and in doing so, have you been able to notice just the pretty much night and day change in offensive line play since last year's game?
That's eerie that you said that, because we were watching film with the quarterbacks today, and even Sam just commented, and it wasn't. We were just watching a formation cut up, whatever, and he's like, "Man, we didn't really move anybody around last year, did we?" And so yeah, I mean, when the 19-year-old sophomore is noticing the difference, I think everybody is noticing the difference, and knock on wood, that group's got to play well for us to have a chance to succeed. They played well last Saturday, and hopefully they can continue that.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how did you feel about punt protection versus USC? It seemed like it got a little close at times. Did you feel like there's anything that needs to be tightened up this week?
Yeah, the scheme is, it's the same scheme we had last year, and did so well with that unit. Obviously, the guy kicking the ball had a lot to do with that too, but we didn't really get anybody close to him last year too. But When you put on film a blocked punt, you can rest assured for the coming weeks, people are going to come after your punt because they have either noticed a weakness, either personnel-wise, or think they can gain an advantage schematically. So we do need to tighten up. I don't, you know, you're not going to just, you know, scrap everything and start new. There were some minor mistakes here and there, but those minor mistakes on that team, when they're, you know, bringing whatever it is, 9 guys after the punt, they get magnified a little bit.
Speaking of special teams, how'd you feel about seeing a kicker bang home 2 46-yarders?
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job, and you know, I certainly we all believe he'll continue to do so. But
Right.
I don't think any of us. I know we hadn't attempted any of the first 2 games. I think that was more coincidence than it was any, you know, conscious decision.
Right.
You know, we had no qualms throwing him out there when the moment presented itself. It just happened to be, you know, at home against USC, and they, you know, he did a great job. And again, I think I said it after the game. You know, I mean, this guy has kicked in a lot of big games, and so we were pretty sure that the moment wouldn't be too big for him.
But just how much does it change your thinking when y'all are, you know, right in that kind of no man's land, but you might have a guy who can drill those on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I think it changes it, certainly. I mean, if you feel good that, you know, within a certain range, it's, you know, fairly guaranteed, and nothing's ever guaranteed in
Right.
football, but that,
As close as it can be.
yeah, that, you know, we're going to get 3 points out of this, then, you know, you change a little bit your way of thinking in terms of 3rd down calls, 4th down calls, all that stuff. So I don't think it'll change, you know, when we get close, you know, like, you know, 4th and 1, you know, from the 1, depending on the game situation, you know, that's not an issue with the kicker. That's an issue with percentages and you know, kind of metrics.
Weather and range obviously play a factor, or weather and wind, but you know, what is Cameron's range?
Yeah, on a clear, normal day, I would say probably low to mid 50s, you know, would be something we would attempt.
Kind of piggybacking on that, with whether it's been a factor, a potential factor the last 2 weeks, does that change the approach, the game plan for you guys if you're playing in a wet game on Saturday?
No, not really. You know, I do think it probably shows its effects the most in the kicking game a little bit. You know, we certainly prepare for it. You know, Thursdays are always wet ball days, so you know, our deep snappers, short snappers, punter, holder, we're all snapping and catching wet balls. Same with the centers and quarterbacks. But other than that, not a whole lot. I mean, unless it's a monsoon or something like that, you know, people say, well, you got to run the ball in the rain. Well, I mean, we've had some of our better passing games, at least I've been around some of our team's better passing games because, you know, when conditions get a little bit slick, you know, receivers, they know where they're going. Defenders, DBs, they have to react. And a lot of times, you know, to be on the offensive side of the ball is a bit of an advantage than being on the defensive side of the ball in terms of running routes and getting open and separating all that stuff. So other than just snapping and catching wet balls, nothing really changes in the game plan.
Tom, Sam was saying on Tuesday that the more you guys put on his plate in terms of letting him make checks, whether it's protections or getting out of a place, that it gives him a confidence boost. When you're going through that process with a young quarterback in terms of determining how much do you give him, how much freedom do you give him, what is that process like when you're determining those things?
It's hard, you know, because they got to do it. You know, I mean, it's you stunt your offense's growth. You know, gone are the days in a no-huddle offense where the coordinator could just sit in the box and get to the line and call a play, and you knew what defense it was going to be in because defenses have caught up quite a bit in terms of the look-back game and check to the sideline. I mean, defenses now are checking from field blitz to boundary blitz when the quarterback looks back, stuff like that. So you got to put a lot on his plate to see blitzes and flip protections and get us into more advantageous plays. But it is a slow process, and you want to be careful that you don't overload him. I mean, that's obvious, but it just, there's a few things here and there, and you give him a very small menu at first. I mean, certainly you're not saying, hey, okay, well, if they do this, we're going to check to this, but if this guy's in this stance, we're going to do that, and then if this guy is 3 yards outside the hash, we're going to do that. You basically, you want to narrow your focus. If you see blitz, we want to get to this. If you see an Okie front, we want to get to this, and you give him a few specific things on his menu and on his plate that he can get to, and then that continues to grow throughout his career. And I think the biggest thing, I think one thing that, gets kind of flown by, this is, again, the first year, I think in 5 years, something like that, that Texas has had the same offensive system in back-to-back years. So the comfort level for him is growing as well.
Are you pleased? Are you seeing the kind of growth you want to see from him in making those decisions on a game-by-game basis?
Oh yeah, he's not perfect. Wasn't perfect on Saturday, but and he'd tell you that. But his trajectory is where it needs to be.
Gary Patterson is obviously one of the better coaches in the country. What are some of the characteristics of a Gary Patterson kind of coach team? And just talk maybe a little bit about the challenges that is matching, that type of mentality as an opposing coach.
Yeah, I mean, I got a ton of respect for Coach Patterson. I mean, to do what he's done for 18 years at one place and has reinvented the program offensively, and has done a nice job of evolving defensively over the years. But every time you turn on the film of a Gary Patterson team, let alone defense, offense, whatever, they're going to play hard, and they're going to play physical, they're going to play very sound. You can tell that their players know what they're doing. They don't hesitate at all. They're very confident in what they do in all facets of the game. And so the thing that makes this team a bit unique is just the speed. I mean, there's speed everywhere. And you combine that speed with his culture and the way his teams have always been in terms of playing hard and physical. We're going to have our hands full in terms of that combination.
Quick follow-up on Keontae's. Do you, is it fair to call him a game-time decision, or you think he will play, it's just a matter of how much?
Probably the second one. Yeah, I think it was a bone bruise, so it's the knee is stable.
Mm-hmm.
We've just got to figure out pain tolerance and if it starts becoming a hindrance, then that's where you got to say, okay, enough's enough.
Okay.
Two questions for you. One, what's the growth that you want to see from this team? Because last week seemed like a full defense, special teams, offense. It all seemed like it was clicking. What's the growth you want to see from that to this? And then also just official plans, renderings for the state of the South End zone. I don't know if they're any different from what Del Conte first put out there, but the excitement knowing that it's, the ball's actually rolling
Right.
with this.
Yeah, I think just growth-wise, I think you want to see a team that can play the way we did, for the last 3 quarters. I thought the first quarter was a little bit rough. It wasn't for lack of effort or anything like that. They just, they made a lot of plays. I liked the second half, third down on both sides of the ball was really critical. So I'd like to see us continue making progress on third down on both sides of the ball. And then I think it's just a matter of, we're going to see, if our guys, if we've done a good enough job of coaching them, to eliminate the distractions and focus on the week's preparation and the confidence that they can build in having a good week of preparation. So those are the things I'd like to see. And then, It's awesome. The new facility is going to be great. I know it's going to be such an enhanced atmosphere for our fans, but obviously the thing that we're proudest of is, you know, what our players are going to get out of it, you know, which is, you know, basically a whole new facility. The locker room and weight room won't change a ton because we did dump a lot of money into that, but everything else in this south end zone will be different and better and as good as there is in the country to train our players, because when you come to Texas, you should expect to have the best facilities in the country. And you know, my hat's off to Greg Fenvis and Chris Delcani for, I mean, Chris hasn't even been here a year, you know, and this is already well off the ground and money already being raised and all that stuff for it. So for addressing that need very, very quickly and making sure that in pretty short order we're going to have, you know, one of the finest facilities in the country.